Let's look at how you can make this easy and super trendy crochet poncho. The construction is pretty simple and can be done with different stitches and different hook sizes. You essentially just crochet 2 panels that only have an increase on one side, and this will leave you with a bit more room to move instead of just using 2 rectangles. You leave an opening for the neck, and then you crochet together the top side of the 2 panels and then the side of the 2 panels, so the increased side. You only need 2 measurements. Measurement 1 will be how wide your poncho should be. To find that measurement, you measure from one shoulder to the other and then down your arm to where you want the poncho to stop. My measurement was 67 centimeters. Measurement 2 would be the length of the poncho. Mine was 50 centimeters. Keep in mind that the poncho will stretch when worn, so it will look shorter when laying flat as opposed to when you're wearing it. I'm using 100% cotton yarn with a yardage of 50 grams being 115 meters and a 7mm hook. I used a bit thinner yarn and a 6mm hook for the yellow version. Take your yarn and start by making a very loose crochet chain that matches your measurement 1. If you struggle with making loose chains, you can also size up your hook by 1 size. I chained 63 to get my measurement 1. Once you have your crochet chain, you treble crochet back into the chain. If you're not familiar with what a treble crochet is, it's basically like a double crochet, but you yarn over twice instead of once. So you place 1 treble crochet into every chain stitch until you reach the last one. The last chain stitch of this row is going to be your first increase, so you place 2 treble crochet into the last chain stitch. And remember, you always only increase on one side only, so the side you're increasing is always going to be where the yarn tail is. You're going to increase for the next 5 rows, every row. On this side only, chain 3 and turn your work. And since row 2 is another increase row, you are going to start by placing 2 treble crochet into the first stitch. Continue by placing 1 treble crochet into every stitch for the rest of the row. Chain 3 and turn your work. Row 3 starts on a non-increase side, so it's going to be 1 treble crochet per stitch until you reach the last one. Once you reach the end of the row, you're going to place 2 treble crochet into the last stitch to increase again. Keep increasing every row on this side only, so where the yarn tail is, until you have 6 rows in total. Don't forget to chain 3 and turn your work after every row. This is what that should look like, so you should have 6 rows of no increase on one side and then 6 rows of an increase on one side only, on the side where the yarn tail is. This is where we are going to adapt the increase rate. So instead of the previous increase of every row, you are going to increase only every 3rd row. So you are going to do 2 non-increase rows and then place another increase. I recommend marking where your last increase row was, just so you know that row 7 and 8 are going to be non-increase rows. So for rows 7 and 8, you are going to place 1 treble crochet per stitch, chain 3 and turn your work after every row. Row 9 is going to be your next increase row. Make sure to only increase on the side where you increased before, and keep increasing every 3rd row until you have your measurement 2. I did 14 rows for this, but I ended up unraveling 3 because it looked too long. So I did 11 rows to get my measurement too, so my desired length. Once you have your first panel, you are going to repeat all the exact same steps to get your second panel. So you chain until you have measurement 1, treble crochet back into the last stitch. You're going to increase and then increase every row for 6 rows, and then only increase every third row on one side only after that. Once you have both of your panels, you are going to lay them flat on top of each other like so. There is no wrong or right side at this point. You just have to make sure that the top, so the starting chains, are at the top of the poncho and that the increased sides are touching each other, just so you make sure that you don't crochet the poncho together incorrectly. Attach the yarn at the top corner of the increased side. Chain 1 and single crochet down the increased side by placing 3 single crochet into the rows and 1 single crochet in between the rows. Make sure to go through both layers instead of just one to really attach the two panels together. And here's what that's going to look like. It honestly doesn't really matter how many stitches you place in between or in the rows. As long as you fully secure both panels together, you should be fine. At the end of the 2 panels, you are going to chain 1 and fasten off the yarn. Now it's time for the neck hole. Lay your poncho flat again and start measuring at the top corner of the increased side. You can measure anything from around 32 to 38 centimeters for the neck hole, depending how much you want this to be off the shoulder. I chose around 37 centimeters. Attach your yarn at this side of the neck hole and make sure it's really secure. Chain 1, and now you're going to very loosely single crochet along the top side of the 2 panels. You can place 1 single crochet per stitch and fiddle into the stitches, but honestly I'm too lazy and I'm just going to work 1 single crochet per gap, if that makes sense. So that's what it's going to look like. Instead of working into the stitches, I'm working into the gaps because I find it far less exhausting. The only place I really work into the stitch is for the last stitch, just because it makes the corners look a little bit, or the edges look a little bit nicer. So for the last stitch, I really insert into the last stitches and then I chain 1 and fasten off my yarn. And now it's time to weave in all the ends. I only had like 2 or 3 to weave in, and I definitely recommend blocking the poncho into shape and into your measurements because this will make it even more flowy and more comfortable.